our last topic, and we thank you for listening to us if you're still with us right now. Let's get into a little bit of dynasty. A lot of
Yeah,
dynasty rookie drafts are starting up right now.
yeah.
Um, they
Let's wrap
usually,
this up with a little fantasy talk, Jay. I know you made this list here of about 15 players or so. So
Mhm.
if you want to do this, how about you just kind of go through the players you think, and let's talk about them through a dynasty perspective, because you have dynasty drafts for people who do dynasty leagues, and they do their rookie draft, but also in redraft leagues, if you think there's any players who you know
Mhm.
could stand out this year. Because really, when you think about the past years with Najee Harris,
Yep.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Saquon from long ago, there really isn't anybody in this draft who you're like, wow, they're going to be a top 5 pick in fantasy. But if you just
Yeah.
want to go through what you think.
So something that's the reason for that, I think, is because usually the two things that you really need to succeed, obviously, or three things: talent, draft capital, and then one of the most important is situations. And Najee Harris, for example, first round draft capital, amazing at Bama, goes to the Steelers, who will run the crap out of the ball. Like, of course,
Hmm.
he was a first round pick. I think the unquestioned first pick in all dynasty formats. So Superflex is the one that we run, um, and some other people don't run. They run one quarterback leagues, whatever. Brees Hall is going to be the unquestioned number one pick in probably every single draft. Um, Brees Hall out of Iowa State.
Hmm.
He scored a touchdown in every single game this past year. He's an absolute stud. He tested like a freak, which I didn't expect. I did not think he would run a sub 4.4 40, but he's got crazy speed. And he's also a very good pass catcher. I think the issue is he's with the Jets, and Michael Carter played pretty well last year. But Michael Carter is going to be the second running back right behind him. I think almost immediately. Brees Hall is so much better than him. It's not even close. And the draft capital speaks for itself. So
Hmm.
they'll use him. That's what I think is definitely consensus number one.
Hmm. I agree with that. In a redraft league, I don't know if he would be anything more than a flex play, but depending on
Mhm.
how well he does, he could slide into RB2 numbers.
Yeah, I think in a redraft league, you probably can't pick a guy like that where its situation's so unknown before like maybe like the fifth round, like third or
Hmm.
fifth round. I feel like
Yeah.
that's probably a sweet spot. Um, going
Especially in
in,
a Jets
yeah,
offense that just isn't reliable. You can't,
exactly.
like I said, you can't take guys who. That's why I don't love touching rookies and younger guys, because you can't take guys who you don't know how well they're going to perform. It's
Yeah,
always best just to take guys who obviously you have to take some chances, but taking guys who you know are just going to produce for you,
absolutely.
especially because our running backs are so valuable.
Number two, so two I think could go multitude of ways, and it'll kind of go like however really you look at it. Um, a lot of people will probably have Kenneth Walker go number two, who went to
Mhm.
Seattle. Um, another really, really, really talented running back. He is not a pass catcher, which is going to hurt him really bad. But
Yeah,
good for him. He went
he's in a
to
tough
Seattle.
situation.
He went to a situation where they don't throw the ball to the running back anyway, and they're not going to be a very high scoring team because Drew Lock is leading them.
So what? First down they handed off to Chris Carson. Second down they handed off to Rashad Penny. Third down they handed off to Kenneth Walker. Is that
Would
pretty
you be
much what's going to
surprised?
happen?
Would you be surprised? Travis Homer's on fourth down. Like, I don't know. Like DJ Dallas on fifth.
Oh my god, I forgot they have DJ Dallas too. I
Yeah.
drafted him and he's been nothing but a waste of space.
Yeah. That's kind of how they view him, clearly.
Yeah.
Um, it was a really curious pick for a team that has a lot more needs than just running back. But whatever. So, like, I don't think he'll necessarily do amazing this year. Uh, I think you're kind of drafting, hoping that next year when they draft they'll probably be really terrible, and they'll draft a good quarterback, and they'll hopefully not have Rashad Penny and Chris Carson there.
Yeah, pretty much the core of this draft is wide receivers, and that's kind of what it's going to come down to, at least in the
Yeah.
first round for dynasty leagues like ours.
So it'll kind of depend. I mean, Kenneth Walker is definitely a stash, but he reminds me of like a J.K. Dobbins. But Dobbins went to such a talented offense, so I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
I personally would probably go receiver here, and it's the same thing. It's kind of like whatever your flavor is. Like I feel like there's a lot of different kinds of talent here. The three that are immediate that stick out to me are Drake London, who went to the Falcons. There's Garrett Wilson, who's also a Jet, and then Treylon Burks, who went to the Titans. And they're all very different kinds of receivers, and I think you can have them in whatever order you like. In my opinion, I probably have Drake London first. I think the Falcons are quickest to become a passing offense because their defense is so bad.
The problem with them, though, is they don't really have a quarterback. Like Marcus Mariota, if he is the starter come week 1, I don't know how good him or Kyle Pitts will be. So it's like even that's like at least in a redraft league, that's a risk. But in a dynasty league, it's a good stash because I think Drake London has such a big upside. But looking at these receivers too, like you said, Garrett Wilson was a good pick. But
I think if you're looking, sorry to interrupt you.
I was just gonna say we don't know how good Zach Wilson will be in his second year, so we just kind of have to wait and see. I know I talked about how in our last episode how much I liked Chris Olave, but I don't know how good he's going to be with Jameis Winston and the Saints struggling. I thought the best receiver in this draft class personally is Jameson Williams, even though he's coming off an injury. I think he's going to be very good in Detroit.
I think that, I really like Jameson Williams. It's another one where it's like maybe Goff will be good for him. I mean, Goff is better than every quarterback in this draft, no question. But it'll be kind of interesting to see if next year they draft a receiver, or sorry, if they draft a quarterback next year. You're probably also taking most of these guys. You're probably taking like 2 stash. The one I think you can kind of look at it like that actually. So like in a dynasty, you take guys for their upside, not for like immediate production.
Yeah.
In a redraft, it's immediate production, and in a redraft league, you're taking Treylon Burks. It's going to be funneled to him and maybe Austin Hooper when there are passing situations because they'll just run it to Derrick Henry every play.
Reverse handoff to Bobby Trees.
Oh yeah, well he's hurt too, so he's not even going to be involved probably immediately.
Yeah.
Sky Moore, I could see probably having immediate production. Christian Watson's kind of like that's a really high ceiling and the lowest floor possible.
What are your thoughts on John Mechie going to the Texans? Do you think he's someone who has a lot of upside?
That's a good question. I think for more of a PPR format, he could be solid. He's an underneath kind of guy for who racks up receptions in the slot. He's also coming off the ACL tear. I don't hate it. To me, he's like a second round pick. I think who got screwed was Jahan Dotson on landing spot. He's not going to even like Terry's getting the lion's share of that offense. It's not even close. Jahan Dotson's very talented, but they have guys for that.
I wanted to address the quarterback situation because last year Trevor Lawrence was most likely the consensus number 1 in dynasty drafts, and he wasn't very good this past year. But it's in a dynasty; it's building for the future. So, do you think Kenny Pickett could be a top 5 pick?
I think he'll be. So I think he'll be 5 or 6. I can tell you that it'll be based on who's drafting. If someone who needs a quarterback really needs a quarterback. Kenny Pickett is the only guy who's going to be in that tier. I would take him if, all things were equal. I'd probably take him number 6 after Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, London, Wilson, and Treylon Burks in some order. I'd take him before maybe I'd take Jameson Williams. I don't know. The thing is, Jameson Williams, you're banking that he's going to come back from that tear of the ACL and be amazing eventually on a terrible Lions team. Usually quarterbacks retain a ton of value. Usually. And if anyone's going to make someone good, it's Mike Tomlin. Yeah. I really do believe that. And they have so many good pass catchers. Deontay, Claypool, who hilariously and basically when he announced the draft pick for the Steelers, it was basically their replacement for him was George Pickens. I thought that was so funny. He plays the exact same position.
Also, it was just such a weak quarterback draft class. That's the problem with Dynasty.
Do you see George Pickens, the video of when he watched himself get drafted?
I did not.
Oh my god, it's so funny. He's like hunched. He's like this. It's so funny.
Stay Pickens.
Stay relentless. So anyway, yeah. So it's interesting because if Malik Willis got the draft capital, I would say he'd probably be a top 3 pick, no question. With the rushing upside, but without the draft capital, there's no team investment. There's no reason for them to keep him per se. I can't trust that. He probably will go end of second round. You know, it's an interesting pick though. James Cook. James Cook ends up with the Bills. Super dynamic pass catcher. They tried to sign J.D. McKissick, who signed with them and then didn't. They're not going to be using him in the run game, but they also don't use a run game often.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of James Cook going to maybe the best situation with the Bills?
Yeah, I think he's like you mentioned Dobbins earlier when he went to the Ravens. He's kind of in that same ballpark of someone who is going to a very good team. He's going to be utilized. Obviously, they have Diggs and is downtown John Brown still on their team? I believe he got traded, right?
Downtown John Brown got released, and then no one picked him up. I think it was the Raiders first, and then no one picked him up.
Okay. Well, you know, they have Knox and they have Diggs, and obviously their crazy backfield with Singletary and Zach Moss and all that going on. So I think he's a smart pick to take.
It's kind of interesting that they took 2 third-round running backs in a row.
Yeah,
both basically failed, and then they took a second-round running back to be a third-down pass catcher.
The Bills just love running backs. They stampede ahead.
It's kind of funny. So let's see. What's an interesting one on here? Oh, here's a good one. Where do you take Dameon Pierce? So Dameon Pierce is like kind of an interesting player. He didn't really do a ton at, he was great. Obviously, like all these prospects are good, but like at Florida, he was like, okay. I didn't think he was that impressive. He's not that fast, but he sits atop probably number 1 or 2 on the Texans depth chart of running backs.
Yeah, they're another team that just has so many running backs to choose from. But he was pretty good at Florida, and there was a lot of I think hype around him coming into the draft, just being a potential sleeper pick. So I liked him. I don't know if he's someone who's really gonna. I don't know if he'll ever be a pro baller, but just kind of looking at the here and now and taking a risk on someone. In Dynasty, at least, he's an easy second-round pick, in my opinion.
I think this is the first year in a long time that if I have a second-round pick, if I can trade it for a next year's second-round pick, I will do that immediately.
Yeah.
Probably until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably like 108, and then I'm pretty much out. I don't think there's really anything special. Christian Watson is like, I will gladly let someone else take him.
Yeah.
Scott Moore is really solid. He's probably the last player I'd really want. Jahan Dotson on the Commanders, I don't need.
I feel like this draft just kind of falls off after the second round. But yeah, before we wrap this epi up, I put one more player out there for the long run. I think you mentioned Treylon Burks, but somebody else would be Malik Willis, in my opinion, just because of the the short term. Who knows how long Ryan Tannehill has left? So if the prospects are right and Malik Willis backs up all the talk that was surrounded around him, it could be a good pick for the future.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, he has all the tools to be amazing in fantasy. It's just
you're a tool.
Yeah, so